Hey everyone, it's been a while since I started doing one of these videos, and I miss Melee, and been pretty busy with other stuff. So I guess I wanted to just talk about some of my thoughts in the 2018 meta. A lot of people have asked me questions about what I think about the top level, and I want to talk more from a gameplay perspective in terms of what I've been noticing in terms of trends of people who've been rising and people who have been falling. A lot of this isn't really new. If you guys have been following me, I've always talked about certain things and what I believe is going to help a top player in terms of characteristics I believe are helpful. So, first off, I think that the punish game is more important than ever. And if we look at all the players that are hitting the top 10, we look at Zane, we look at Wizzy, even AMSA to a certain extent, we see that they have very elaborate punish games and that they're very good at touch of deathing their opponents in many situations. Now, of course, with Zane, when he plays against a floaty, he's not going to get the touch of death because that's how the matchup works. But when you look at how he deals with Spaceys, when he deals with Falcon and other characters, he gets a pretty significant amount of damage on his opponents. So that's why I feel it's one of his core reasons on why he's moving up in the ranks. And I think when we see people who are kind of edging out and finishing in the top 10 and people who are kind of slowly falling out, it's because they have inconsistent punish games and inconsistent decision trees. So a lot of the people that kind of play by feel, that don't have the flowcharts as mapped out, are I think suffering a lot in 2018 because there's just going to be so much inconsistency in terms of racking up damage and setting up kills. And even at the very top level, you're kind of seeing this with Mango. And this kind of leads me to my next point and what I'm noticing a lot in the 2018 meta. If we especially look at Evo top 8, Mango struggled, and what really stood out to me in the sets that he played against Armada and Plup was that Plup and Armada literally escaped like 90% of things that most people wouldn't with just good SDI and just game knowledge and stage presence awareness. So what I mean by that is they always found a platform to slide off. They would SDI in a way that Mango couldn't follow up naturally. And when you see Mango play other players, like Mango gets a lot of 0 deaths, he just needs like 1 or 2 mix-ups and it kind of works out. But you really didn't really see that set up nicely for Mango, especially against Plup at Evo. It's not to say that Mango didn't mess up either. I mean, there were a lot of tech flubs, but you just really saw how difficult Plup made it with his defense. So I think that's one of the biggest things that are also going to come to play is also minimizing damage just through really good SDI and really good decision trees on the defensive end to ask yourself, well, how do I minimize the damage that I take? And so that's why I'm just really impressed with Plup right now. Whenever I see him play Mango, like it's just so hard for him to rack up damage, and that's why I think Mango's struggling a lot. Whereas like I think it's like a Falco thing. Like I think Falco was a surprise meta pick in 2017 because a lot of people weren't playing Falco, and so I think a lot of people forgot how to play against like a really good technical and also smart Falco. But we're seeing a lot more regions revive the bird, and I think a lot of the top players are now putting Mango on their radar. So you see Armada practice with Android, with Falco or his Falco, and we see that at the base level that everyone's starting to prep for Mango more and more, and it's not really a surprise pick for people. It's not to say that Mango can't succeed in 2018, but it has that less of a gimmick, like new, unique feel, like we kind of have explored with like Amsa and Yoshi and Axe and Pikachu. For a while, there weren't that many Falcos at the very top because of PPMD, and other people just not really doing that well. So overall, just my thoughts. So to just recap so far, the damage and the combo tree is just are more important than ever, just with how consistent people are at doing damage, and even just the advent of like Uncle Punch and just training tools that have helped people master tech skill and just repeatedly grinding out the same thing. It's, I believe, something that anybody could do, and I feel like even with like unknown players and pools and even like top 100 players that are just borderline there, like I can really see them pulling a lot of upsets on top 20 to top 30 players, just simply because the ability to touch of death or do significant damage off of small openings is just so important. And this is why I believe Ice climbers and jigs are always going to be relevant because people make mistakes and people are going to give you openings. And if you can capitalize on it, you win the game. It's just that simple. One of the interesting things that, to kind of elaborate on this point, I asked Leffen what he was doing to prep, and at Evo he just said, like, I'm just grinding out the punish game because he realized in a best of 3 that the punish game becomes like just so important just to get out there. Like, it's really hard to out neutral somebody and figure out a person's patterns in a best of 3. So he just really focused on, like, can I get the most off of a hit or opening? And it was just a really amazing to watch. If you watch some of Leffen's sets at Evo, especially with like SUJ or something, every time SUJ got hit by Leffen, it seemed like Leffen either got 80 damage or a kill. And even if Johnny wins slightly more of the neutral game, like, it's just so hard to keep pace on the punish game. Other than that, it's really hard to say what else I noticed in terms of like the meta trends. Generic stuff, people are getting a little bit better at making less mistakes, and people's decision trees are getting a lot better year after year. So it's not like there's anything like extraordinary that's happening. It's just like little improvements that kind of add up over time. And just with training tools being available for everybody and how accessible everything is through net play, although the gap, like, let's say if you're a new player and you're starting to play Melee, the gap between you and everybody else is going to be larger. But I also believe that in 2018, there's just so many tools that the rate of improvement that you can make as a player through all levels of the game, like, is just so much wider because everybody just has so many tools to work with. That whereas, like, if you look like in like 06 or 07 or like even 2011, like, some regions didn't have like good Melee players, there weren't training tools available. If you go back to like 06 or 07, like, you had to pay money to watch the MLG streams. And so just the accessibility and the amount of information that's out there today, and like even just top player tutoring and like just all the tools, like, there's just so much that can be done to help a player out. So, like, I think now more than ever, there's just going to be a ton of upsets. And I think moving forward in 2019 and 2020, like, we're just going to see a bunch of new young players, and also players from net play and people from regions that we don't really know about, like, that are like known as like good Melee regions. Like, there's just going to be more players that are just going to be really insanely good, that are going to take down names, and a lot of people are going to be like, hey, like, where's this guy from? Like, I can't believe this upset happen. So all in all, really interesting time. I really do miss the Melee scene a lot, and I really wish I could be more with you guys. I went to Evo. That was really cool to hang out with everybody, but I'll be watching from the sidelines, and occasionally I'll do some streams.